Donald Trump's pick for his border czar, Tom Homan. And Mr. Homan, welcome back. Thank you for being here. You just talked about who you are going to be targeting initially when you take office. You talked about people who are a public safety threat or a national security threat. And you said that everyone, though, is on the table if they are here in the country illegally. As you know, there's a lot of mixed status households in the United States. Do you plan to take both parents into custody if there are minor children in the house?
If you're in the country illegally and you got order of deportation, we're going to arrest you, we're going to detain you, we're going to remove you. If they have a U.S. citizen child, if they chose after they come to the country illegally and chose after been ordered removed to have a U.S. citizen child and think, okay, the court order doesn't mean anything anymore, the removal order doesn't mean anything anymore, then what kind of message we send into the whole world? Go ahead and cross the border illegally, which is a crime. Ignore a judge's order of deportation, but have a baby, and you're fine. If we do that, then shut down the immigration court because the orders don't mean anything anymore, and take the border patrol off the border. We can't send a message to the whole world that you can violate laws of this country and not leave as required by a judge and have a U.S. citizen child. You're okay. That child can stay. They can stay with a relative. They can stay with the other parent, or they can take them with them. We don't deport U.S. citizens, but they put themselves in the position. We didn't.
Would the kids go if both parents, though, are deported? Would you put the children in foster care if there's not a relative? Child Protective Services. What does that look like?
Well, that's up to the parent. I call that parenting 101. It's up to the parent what they want to do. That's their child. But the bottom line is having a child in this country does not make you immune from our laws. If that's the message we send to the rest of the world, you're never going to solve the best work courses.
What would you be asking ICE agents to do in that scenario?
To arrest and deport people who are ordered to remove by a federal judge. That's what they're going to do. The parents can make the decision on their child. That's their decision.
So when you argued recently when you were asked about family separation, you said families can be deported together. That's how you would avoid that. I mean, you're saying that U.S. citizen, that U.S.-born child would have the choice to either go with their parents or to stay here in the United States without their parents.
That's the decision of the parents. And again, we can't send a message to the whole world that you can circumvent our laws by simply having a U.S. citizen child when you know you're here illegally. They made that decision. They put their families in that position, not us. We're going to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and signed by a president. If people don't like the laws, they can certainly have the laws changed by Congress. But we're going to do what the American people want us to do, enforce the laws enacted by Congress and what Congress funds us to do.
And obviously, this could be a reality that you are facing in just a few weeks or a few months from now. The other question that I've heard so much about this is the massive impact that these large removals could have on the construction or agriculture or hospitality industry. Is that something that you're keeping in mind as you're making these plans?
Yeah, that'd be part of the prioritization. But let's remember, it's illegal to hire an illegal alien and employ illegal alien because there are a number of reasons. Undercuts wages. People hire an illegal alien for a couple of reasons. Number one, they can work them harder, pay them less, and undercut their competition who has U.S. citizen employees. It's against the law to hire an illegal alien, and we'll be enforcing that law too because worksite enforcement is coming back. Where do I find most victims of trafficking, sex trafficking, and forced labor? At work sites. And this administration stopped that. So if we're serious about human trafficking, both forced labor and forced sex trafficking, that's where we find the victims. That's where we save the victims. So worksite enforcement is coming back in a big way.
Yeah, the worksite raids. And of course, I mean, you've seen in areas like Wisconsin, dairy farms have a lot of undocumented immigrants on their property who are working there. So that was a big question for them. The other question I had for you is that the president-elect said recently that he believes still, not a new position for him, but he believes that birthright citizenship must end. Obviously, that is no easy feat, given it is enshrined in the Constitution. But will he or anyone in his orbit direct immigration officials to stop giving out documents like passports or Social Security cards to babies who are born on U.S. soil, to parents who aren't documented?
Look, I think that's up to the courts. I think it needs to be held by the Supreme Court. I kind of disagree with you. I don't think it's enshrined in the Constitution at all, not the way I read it. But then again, I'm not a constitutional scholar. We'll let the courts decide that on the birthright citizenship. I'll say this. It's a major driver, a major magnet for illegal migration. And under this administration, you got a record number of illegal aliens have dying crossing the border. You got a record number of Americans dying from fentanyl coming across that border. You got a 600% increase in sex trafficking. So we got to stop these magnets. We got to stop rewarding illegal behavior, because that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, of course, it's the 14th Amendment, as you know. I do have a question on what this looks like, because one thing I've heard you say repeatedly is mass deportations doesn't mean tanks going down streets or huge sweeping raids. I think of what a lot of people might have in mind. You said the idea of building concentration camps is, quote, ridiculous. We have heard other people talk about large staging facilities, Stephen Miller, for example, who you'll be working with. On this and what this looks like when it's carried out, do you have any red lines of where you do not want to go to carry out the pledge to deport mass amounts of people?
Look, this operation, me and Steve Miller, there was no daylight between me and Steve Miller. He was the architect of some of the most significant, successful border policies in the history of this nation. President Trump had unprecedented success during his first administration. But look, we're going to build detention facilities because, again, this is a massive deportation operation. Let me explain why it's a massive deportation operation. Millions of people enter this country illegally, claiming asylum. Secretary Mayorkas has said under oath numerous times, for those who don't qualify for asylum, they'd be immediately moved. Of course, he didn't do it, so we're going to do it. But people need to understand, the people come to the border to claim asylum. Based on immigration court data the last decade, 9 out of 10, nearly 9 out of 10 people claim asylum will get an order removal. So when they lose that case, we'll give them the due process. They can make an asylum claim. We'll take them to a judge. But when a judge says they're leaving, they have to leave, because if we don't, like I said, then what the hell are we doing? Just shut down the immigration court doesn't mean anything more, and take the border patrol off the border because there's no consequences. We're going to enforce the law, and to do that, we're going to have teams out throughout the country arresting these targets. We got to build detention facilities to hold these people, so we're going to remove them. But there will be a well-targeted enforcement operation.
Well-targeted enforcement operation. And you said that starts on day one that Trump takes office. I do want to just revisit, though, if you want to carry out this mass deportation and you want to start it on day one, just about a little over a month from now, but you don't have a target number in mind, how does that, can you explain how that works to me?
The target number is arresting as many people as we can possibly arrest with the resources I have. So, for instance, we already discussed, we got over 700,000 illegal aliens in this country with a criminal conviction. They're priority one. These criminal gangs like Tren de Agua and MS-13, they're a priority. National security threats, they're a priority. So the goal is for ICE officers and other agencies who's going to assist them to arrest as many targeted priority aliens as possible. Here's the problem, though. In sanctuary cities, we can't arrest a criminal in the jail because they won't let us in the jail. So that forces us to go to the neighborhood, which means instead of one agent arresting a bad guy in the jail, we got to send a whole team to the neighborhood. And what happens there? We're going to find others that are non-priority criminals. But guess what? They're going to be arrested, too, because immigration officers aren't going to be told to walk away from somebody here illegally like this Biden administration has done. So sanctuary cities is going to get exactly what they don't want. You don't want to arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of the jail. Okay, put ICE officers at great risk to go in the community to arrest this person who has access to what weapons, and they're going to end up arresting more collateral arrests because they have forces in the community.
That 700,000 number, are you confident that you'll be able to deport all of those people?
That's my goal.
But are you confident you'll be able to complete that goal?
I'm confident in the men and women of ICE. They're very good at this, and we're going to arrest as many criminals and gang members as we can find. If we can't find them tomorrow, we'll find them the next day. This operation isn't going to stop. We got 4 years to do this operation, and we'll continue our focus on those with public safety threats, national security threats, then fugitives, then the rest of the people who are not off the table. If you're in the country legally, you got a problem. And I would ask people, if you're in the country legally, you don't have a deportation order yet, then leave voluntarily, because if we have to be forced to issue a deportation, the court actually gives a deportation order, and we have to formally remove you, that puts a bar, a 5 to 20-year bar. You can't re-enter the country. You can't re-enter the country on a visitor visa, a tourist visa. You can have a U.S. citizen petition for you. The smart thing to do, if you haven't got a removal order in the country legally, is leave on your own. That saves a lot of hurt and a lot of harm.
Tom Homan, I hope you come back and join us as we want to continue talking about this once you're officially in office. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And joining me now at the table, CNN White House correspondent Priscilla Alvarez, who does a lot of